ENZC, what is up on this July 29th? Well, if you answered not much, I'd say you're about right. I'm looking here at the one-day intraday chart, and I gotta tell you, man, it took me a long time to figure out what I would even say today because just nothing happened. I mean, it's just it just flatlined here. And if you go into the 1 month time range, right? And I'm looking here at the 60-minute time frequency. We're just trading in a range, a little horizontal sideways range here. There are moments to pick up shares, moments to sell shares, and that's what's happening. That seems to be kind of the thing. If you go back to 3 months, right, you start to see what looks like a trend, right? And that trend, my buddy, Kings and Poets and Kings over on Twitter land, he pointed out, and I'm glad he did because this is something I've been saying too, and this is your trend, that baseline right there. Drop that out, Let's look at this on the weekly, and it's just clear as day, right? It's just moving up, right? And if you think that's too slow, then I think you're insane because, you basically went from a penny to like 17 cents over, geez, like what is that? That's not much time at all, not much time at all, y'all. But if you're looking at what's happening right now, look at that. It's just nothing, not zilch, nada, nothing. Ain't nothing happening, y'all. And if you depending on which indicators you look, if you're looking at a Bollinger Band, this is just squeeze city right here, just squeeze city. And when you have a Bollinger squeeze, you make a breakout. But the thing is, the Bollinger itself doesn't tell you whether it'll be an upward breakout or a downward breakout, right? And that's when other indicators come into it. And I was playing around with this one indicator today. I've never used it before, and it was super fun to pick up. It's called the alligator, and it's basically 3 moving averages, right? And people use this to determine if they're in a large trend. Maybe a little easier to look at. If we look at the 9 month, you can kind of get a better feel for where those big movements are, right? And basically they're saying, this is when you want to be in a trend, right? Because you've got the 3 lines all fanned out really nicely. And this is when you want to be in a trend right here. You got it all figured out, fanned out all nicely. This stuff right here is kind of, and look at this. Look at this. If this is an alligator, that alligator is not asleep. That alligator is dead. It's dead in the water. I mean, you got all these lines just laying on top of each other, right? I mean, just laying on top of each other. And you got to wonder, what's the story here? What are we looking at? What are we going to do? I mean, look at that. Here I am, 3 month time range, daily time frequency. It's just flat. I could draw trend lines all day long. But that's just flat. Not a damn thing's going on. So what you need to be doing is wondering, well, if nothing's going on, where's the volume coming from? Because we are seeing volume, right? There's volume. It's minuscule, but there's volume, And when I say minuscule, I mean it's millions of shares being traded. Who's doing that and why? And that's when we get into accumulation, right? Accumulation is when we look at things and these institutional investors, hedge funds, whales, M&M, market makers, they come in and they start just accumulating sales, stocks, and then they'll sell them, when they raise up a little bit, a portion of them, so that they don't make a big scene. They don't want it to run. This could be orchestrated. There's a lot of talk about that on Twitter, orchestrated consolidation, and that is accumulation, right? You've got to talk about like trends, right? What you do is you have an upward trend, right? You get into overbought, right? You have a downward trend, right? You get into oversold, right? And then it goes up again, right? And the thing is, when it's down here, that's the moment for accumulation. And that's what's happening. We're seeing that. We're seeing it play out, right? We're seeing accumulation play out. Now, the thing is, you've got to wonder what happens next. And like I said, for me, when I'm talking about movements, I'm not talking about little bitty pops, right? That's not me. It's not how I trade, not what I'm interested in. I'm wanting to see big movements that are going to last, at least a month, right? And so for me, right here, this was a great movement on, my slow stochastic. And, I use a really long setting, 21, 14, 14. Because what I want to see is I want to catch big movements. I'm not interested in the little bitty guys. I'm not scalping. That's not what I do. For me, I'm excited. I've said this before because my slow stochastic's curving up out of oversold and is getting to a point where it's going to be able to cross out of oversold probably in a few weeks, right? Maybe 2-3 weeks, which lines up pretty well with some catalysts we know is coming, right? Plus, we also know from the PR that came out today, 3 months they're talking about having this, the HIV therapeutic produced, ready for clinical trials. Wow. And that lines up so perfectly with this timeline. This is when I'm going to be accumulating. This is when the market makers are going to be accumulating. This is when smart money is going to be accumulating. Because right now, ain't shit happening. Cheers, y'all.